If the gods exist, why do they stay silent when we scream? Why do prayers echo, unanswered? Why do the innocent suffer while the cruel rise? Now, imagine this, the gods exist, but they don't care. Not because they're cruel, but because they're beyond us. Epicurus once said, "It is folly for a man to pray to the gods for that which he has the power to obtain by himself." But here's the paradox, if the gods don't intervene, then your life, your triumphs, your failures, your meaning, is entirely up to you. No one's coming to save you. And that terrifying truth might just set you free. You've had those nights, haven't you? Where the ceiling turns into a cosmic void. Where you lie still, wondering if anything, out there is listening. You bargain with a silent sky. You whisper questions into your pillow. You ask, why me? Why this pain? Why now? And all you get in return is silence. But what if that silence isn't a punishment? What if it's a clue? Today, we're diving into a philosophy older than Christianity, older than Islam, even older than modern science. A philosophy so radical, it was erased from history books for centuries. A truth so unnerving, most people still aren't ready for it. This is the world according to Epicurus, the philosopher who dared to say, the gods exist. But they don't care. And this isn't just about dusty scrolls and marble statues. It's about you, your freedom, your fear, and what it means to live in a universe without divine puppeteers. Ready? Good. Because once you see what Epicurus saw, you'll never see the world the same again. First, the dangerous piece of the gods. Let's start here. Epicurus didn't hate the gods. In fact, he believed in them. But not as creators. Not as judges. Not as beings obsessed with your sex life, your career, or whether you eat meat on a Friday. No. To Epicurus, the gods were perfect, eternal beings, so perfect that they had no reason to meddle in human affairs. Why would a being, basking in immortal bliss, care about your GPA? The gods live in a state of pure tranquility, Epicurus wrote. They are models of peace, not intervention. So when people suffered, when nations fell, when earthquakes swallowed cities, Epicurus didn't say, the gods are punishing us. He said, this is just the nature of the universe. The gods don't interfere. And that terrified people. Because deep down, we all crave meaning. We want someone watching over us. We want to think there's a plan. But Epicurus ripped off that comfort blanket and handed us something else, freedom. Second, if the gods don't care, what now? Here's where it gets crazy, the gods aren't pulling strings, then guess who's in charge? You. No more blaming fate, no more thinking, the universe is testing me, no more waiting for a sign. To Epicurus, that's not a tragedy. That's the beginning of real power. You are not a pawn. You are not a piece on some divine chessboard. You are a free, autonomous being in an indifferent cosmos, and now the question becomes, what do you do with that freedom? Here's where it gets crazy. Third, the Epicurean Guide to Inner Peace. Most people think Epicurus was all about pleasure. And yeah, he was. But not the way you think. This wasn't about hedonistic parties or endless indulgence. Epicurus defined pleasure as the absence of pain. He believed that true happiness came from three things. First, friendship, the real kind, not followers, not fake smiles. But souls who hold space for you when you fall apart. Second, freedom, not just political freedom, but freedom from toxic desires, from material traps, from fear. Third, reflection, knowing yourself, quieting the chaos inside. He literally created a community called the Garden, where people lived simply, surrounded by friends, practicing mindfulness centuries before the word existed. Do not spoil what you have by desiring what you have not, he said. Let that sink in. In a world that screams, more, Epicurus whispers, less is enough. Fourth, why we invent angry gods. Okay, but let's ask the question you're probably thinking, if the gods don't care, why did humans invent so many stories of divine punishment? Simple, fear. Ancient humans looked at lightning and thought, that's Zeus. They saw plagues and thought, we angered the gods. It gave them a sense of control. If we caused it, we can fix it. Blame is easier than randomness. But randomness? Chaos? That's scary. It means bad things can happen without reason. So religions filled in the blanks. They told you someone was watching. Judging. Weighing your sins. It made the universe feel less lonely. But Epicurus said, that's a lie we tell ourselves to feel safe. And maybe, just maybe, you don't need a lie to live a meaningful life. The psychology of indifference, modern psychology backs this up. Studies show that people who believe in a just world, where good is rewarded and evil punished, tend to struggle when life is unfair. They get angry. Bitter. Disillusioned. But people who accept randomness, they bounce back faster. They find meaning in response, not reasons. In other words, your power doesn't come from what happens to you. It comes from how you interpret it. You could scream at the sky, why me? Or you could whisper to yourself, now what? Meaning without gods. Here's the twist no one sees coming. If the gods don't assign meaning, that doesn't mean life is meaningless. It means you get to create it. Isn't that more powerful? Imagine this, you're not following someone else's script, that you're writing your own. Every relationship you build, every dream you chase, every pain you transform, it's all authored by you. No divine test, no karma ledger. Just you, and the freedom to choose what matters. Death is nothing to us, Epicurus said, for when we exist, death is not, and when death exists, we are not. So why fear what you'll never feel? Why waste this brief, blazing miracle of life on fear? Next, the fear of a godless sky. Let's be honest. The idea that no one's watching. That there's no cosmic scorekeeper. That it's all up to us. It's not just liberating, it's terrifying. Because if there's no higher plan, then the pain you've endured, the heartbreak, the betrayal, the loss, it wasn't part of some divine curriculum. It just happened, random, cruel, unfair. And in that space, a terrifying silence opens. A silence that makes you question whether anything matters. But Epicurus doesn't leave us stranded there. He gives us a torch. He says, the universe is indifferent, yes. But indifference is not hostility. In other words, the universe doesn't hate you. It just doesn't owe you. And once you stop expecting meaning to be handed to you like a divine gift, you start to build it for yourself. Enter Nietzsche, the echo of a dead god. Centuries after Epicurus, another voice emerged from the void, Friedrich Nietzsche. And he didn't whisper, he roared. God is dead, he declared. And we have killed him. But here's what most people miss, Nietzsche wasn't celebrating. He was warning us. Because once you remove God from the equation, you remove inherited values. Morality, purpose, meaning, it all crumbles. Unless, you build something new. Nietzsche feared that in a vacuum left by God, humans would spiral into nihilism, believing in nothing, clinging to distractions, chasing empty pleasures. He challenged us to become the Übermensch, the Overman. Someone who doesn't wait for meaning, but creates it. Carves it. Bleeds for it. And that's where Epicurus and Nietzsche shake hands across the centuries. Both looked at a world without divine interference and asked, now what? Both saw freedom not as a luxury, but a responsibility. Why do we cling to cosmic justice? Even now, you might still feel a pull. That hope that maybe, someone is watching, that karma will balance the scales. That your suffering isn't wasted. Psychologists call this the just world hypothesis. It's the belief that people get what they deserve. Good people are rewarded. Bad people are punished. That it's comforting, but it's also false. Because the world doesn't work that way. Bad things happen to good people. Good things happen to narcissists. And the more you cling to this belief, the more you'll suffer when reality doesn't match. Epicurus offers a radical alternative: stop expecting justice from the universe, start creating it yourself. You want fairness? Be fair. You want kindness? Be kind. You want meaning? Build it. Because if there's no cosmic judge, then you are the judge now. Finding peace without divine supervision. Let's talk peace. Not the kind you find in a quiet spa or meditation app. I mean the real kind. The peace that comes when you stop fearing the sky. When you realize that your pain isn't punishment, and your joy isn't a reward. It's just life. Random. Beautiful. Brutal. Brief. Epicurus had a word for this: ataraxia, a state of serene calm, free from fear and anxiety. You achieve it not by believing harder, but by letting go. Let go of the fear of death. Let go of the belief that pain must have a purpose. Let go of the craving for divine applause. Then, and only then, can you experience the radical calm of true freedom. Practical takeaways: do this, not that, let's bring it down to earth. Here's how to apply Epicurean wisdom right now. First, replace divine validation with self-reflection. Not, what would God think of me, but, what do I think of me when I'm alone with my thoughts? Your conscience isn't a hotline to heaven. It's a mirror, learn to look. Second, seek joy through simplicity. Not, I'll be happy when I have more. But, what's quietly beautiful in my life right now? Epicurus taught that water, bread, and a good conversation can be enough. Third, question suffering, but don't worship it. Not, this pain must be for a reason. But, what can I create from this pain? Suffering isn't noble. But it can be fuel, if you use it. Fourth, build your own tribe. Not, who do I worship, but, who walks with me? Epicurus' garden was based on friendship. Deep, soul-level connection. Forget followers, find allies. Last, accept death as part of life. Not, I'm scared of not existing. But, I won't be there to be scared. Death isn't a presence. It's an absence, and until it comes, you're still here. Still breathing. Still writing your story. If the gods don't care, why should you? You might be thinking. If the gods don't care, and the universe is random, then why should I even bother? Why care about anything? It's a fair question. One Nietzsche wrestled with, hard. He called this the valley of nihilism, the psychological crash that comes after the loss of belief. It's the phase where everything feels meaningless. Your job. Your goals. Even your own heartbeat, but here's the twist: Nietzsche didn't stop in the valley. He climbed out of it. He said, to live is to suffer, to survive is to find some meaning in the suffering. You're not supposed to avoid the darkness. You're supposed to walk through it, and build light inside of it. It's not about, why should I care? It's about, what do I care about so deeply, that I'd fight for it even if no one else is watching. That's how stars are born. From Collapse. Viktor Frankl, Meaning in Hell. Let's bring in someone who lived this. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, wrote the legendary book Man's Search for Meaning. He lost everything: his family, his freedom, even his name. And yet, he found meaning. Not in grand cosmic justice, but in small, defiant choices. He realized that even in a concentration camp, he had one power that couldn't be taken from him, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. That's it. That's the rebellion. Even when the gods don't show up, even when life doesn't make sense, you can give it meaning, not by waiting, but by choosing. Frankl said, those who have a why to live, can bear almost any how. So here's your challenge: what's your why? Not the one you were taught. Not the one others expect. Your real one. Carl Jung, Facing the God Within. Here's where psychology meets myth. Carl Jung didn't reject the gods, he internalized them. He said the gods were never up in the sky. They were inside your unconscious mind all along. Your fears. Your desires. Your dreams. Your shadows. He called this the archetypal realm, a world of inner gods, goddesses, heroes, and monsters. When you dream of flying, of falling, of being chased, you're not watching fiction. You're watching your mythology play out. And that God you've been trying to impress? He lives inside your head. He's the voice that says, you're not enough. The judge. The punisher. The phantom parent. But Jung says you can face him. You can even befriend him. Because the ultimate journey isn't to heaven. It's to your own unconscious. Where every god you ever feared is just a fragment of you, waiting to be integrated. Stop looking up, look inward. We've spent millennia looking up at the stars for meaning, praying to the sky. Begging the heavens. Worshipping what we couldn't see. But maybe the gods were never up there. Maybe they were buried in the trenches of your childhood wounds. Maybe they were hiding in your anxiety, your guilt, your dreams. Maybe they were whispering through your creativity, waiting to be heard. Stop looking up. Start digging, not with shame, with fire. Because what you find down there, that's not a god. That's you, unmasked. And you were always the most powerful myth in the room. Centuries of prayers, poems, wars, cathedrals. Waiting for thunder to answer our cries, but the thunder never came, and maybe, just maybe, it wasn't supposed to. Because the absence of divine intervention isn't proof that the universe is cruel. It's proof that we were meant to become the intervention. That when no one came to save us, it was because we were always meant to save ourselves. That's the divine joke. You kept asking, why don't the gods care? But the better question is, why did you ever think you needed one, when you were always built to become one? Maybe the gods don't care because they aren't watching. Maybe they're not silent. Because silence isn't cruelty, it's permission. Permission to rise without applause. To fall without a safety net. To create meaning in a world that gave you none. You were born into chaos, not as punishment. But as a challenge. Become the author of your own order. The god of your own story. So stop waiting for signs from the sky. You are the sign. The fire you beg for is already in your hands. Now light the damn world up, because the gods don't care. But you can, and maybe that's the most divine thing of all.